Welcome to This Explainer. Picture this. You step out into the crisp morning light, and the city around you is already waking up in this beautiful blur of motion, sound, and deep, deep history. Today, we're starting our journey right in the beating modern heart of Istanbul, Taksim Square. We're going to peel back the layers of Istiklal, capturing everything from the sweeping grandeur of 19th century facades down to the really intimate, bustling energy of its hidden courtyards. It's going to be a real trip. Now, to really wrap our heads around the energy of this place, we have to look at how it was perceived back in the day. 19th century travelers actually called this area, which was then known as the Grand Rue de Paris, the Paris of the East. And it makes sense, right? It had this distinctly cosmopolitan atmosphere. It was this incredible spot where European and Ottoman cultures just seamlessly blended together, drawing in intellectuals, artists, and diplomats from all over. And today, we're going to see exactly how that historical grandeur collides with the modern hustle of a city that literally never stops moving. So standing in the vastness of Taksim Square, you realize its physical evolution is basically a mirror for the modernization of the entire nation. It first took its prominent shape when the artillery barracks were built back in 1806. Then, by 1914, it became a major transport hub thanks to the brand new electric tram network. But the real shift happened with the founding of the Turkish Republic. The square took on this massive symbolic role, beautifully anchored by the Republic Monument inaugurated in 1928. Fast forward to today, and it's the city's main civic and metro hub. Think of it as the ultimate public stage of Istanbul. It has impartially hosted an incredible spectrum of history, from massive, joyous New Year's Eve parties and May Day rallies, right through to the 2013 Gezi Park protests. All right, let's step away from the sheer scale of the square for a second, because it's time to board the avenue's most famous resident. Imagine hearing the conductor ringing the bell, ding ding, trying to clear the incredibly thick crowd of pedestrians as we step onto that iconic bright red tram. This is the T2 Taksim Tunnel line, and it is our vehicle for journeying down Istiklal Caddesi. It's the slow, really rhythmic ride that just instantly transports you back in time, even while you're navigating a literal sea of modern faces. And this tram isn't just some tourist prop, it's a total survivor. These red trams actually made their very first trip way back in 1914. Believe it or not, they were taken entirely out of service in 1961 to make room for buses. But when the avenue was eventually pedestrianized, the city had the brilliant idea to restore it as a nostalgic line in 1990. Today, this beautiful vintage machine travels a slow 1.6-kilometer route. And despite its age and small size, it somehow carries an average of 6,000 passengers every single day. It physically connects the Ottoman past to the vibrant Turkish present. Now just let this next number sink in for a second. 3 million. 3 million. That is the number of people who walk down this 1.4-kilometer pedestrian avenue on a single weekend day. Just imagine walking across an endless, diverse sea of locals, window shoppers, tourists, and merchants. It is an unending pulse of life. Honestly, it makes it one of the most energetically charged streets anywhere on the planet. To understand how it got this way, take a look at this stunning tinted postcard from the turn of the century. This perfectly captures the rapid urban development that totally transformed the area. When the Sultan moved to the Dolmabahce Palace in the mid-1800s, this area, Pera, became an incredibly prestigious center of attraction, almost overnight. You can really see the deep Levantine architectural roots shaping the cityscape here. It became the ultimate hub for non-Muslim communities, foreign embassies, and international trade, which, as you can imagine, completely revolutionized the way buildings were designed and used. And that brings us to a really fascinating architectural shift. Before this era, traditional Ottoman homes were primarily wooden structures, but this massive influx of European influence in Pera brought about a totally new typology: masonry apartment buildings. These new structures featured things like European-style double-hung windows instead of traditional shutters, advanced infrastructure for heating and hygiene, and central corridor floor plans. But the real game changer? They introduced the mixed-use building concept to Istanbul. We're talking commercial shops on the ground floor with residential apartments layered right above them. And sprinkled right among these elegant, bustling apartments are some absolutely incredible religious landmarks.
A major standout is the Church of St. Anthony of Padua, which is Istanbul's largest Catholic church. It was completed in 1912 and designed by the Levantine architect Giulio Mangieri, and it is just a breathtaking example of Venetian neo-Gothic architecture. What's amazing is that it sits directly on the avenue, offering this serene, perfectly quiet escape from the 3 million people walking right outside its doors. It beautifully represents the deep architectural and cultural variety lining the street.
Okay, let's speed up the pacing a bit. Imagine taking a sudden right turn, ducking off the busy main thoroughfare, and stepping straight into the shadows of the Pasajlar. These are the hidden, historical arcades of Istanbul. These covered galleries are woven like a rib cage right off the spine of Istiklal. They hide vintage shops, independent bookstores, local boutiques, and just incredible architectural details that are just waiting to be discovered by anyone curious enough to wander in. The absolute crown jewel of these arcades is the Cité de Pere, better known today as Çiçek Passage, or the Flower Passage. It was built back in 1876 by the architect Kleanthis Xenos. And what's really fascinating is the backstory. It was constructed directly on the ashes of the Naum Theater, this grand opera house that had severely burned down during the Great Fire of Pera in 1870. The new building featured a breathtaking glass cupola, 24 ground-floor shops, and super luxurious apartments up above. The evolution of this space is like something out of a movie. After the 1917 Russian Revolution, impoverished, noble Russian women, we're talking actual baronesses, fled to Istanbul and opened flower shops right here in the arcade. That's exactly how it got the name Flower Passage. By the 1940s, however, the vibe shifted and traditional Turkish taverns, known as meyhanes, began moving in, eventually taking over the space entirely. After part of the roof actually collapsed, it underwent major, beautiful restorations in 1988 and again in 2005. So today, it's preserved as this gorgeous historic space where people still gather to eat, drink, and chat the night away. Step just outside the passage and your senses are instantly hit with the vibrant sights and smells of the Balık Pazari, the bustling, historic fish market. The energy here is just so raw and authentic. And then right nearby, you have places like Narmanlihan. This historic inn actually originally served as the Russian embassy. Today, after some stunning renovations, these inns hide quiet, chic cafes and artisan boutiques. It's this exact contrast, the loud, energetic fish market right next to a serene, tucked-away courtyard cafe, that makes walking this neighborhood so incredibly dynamic. Now, as the afternoon shadows lengthen and that famous evening rush begins, we have to look back to a truly pivotal moment for the street, 1990. That was the year Istiklal Caddesi was completely pedestrianized. The municipality widened a parallel street to take the traffic load. They beautifully restored the historical facades, laid down new flagstones, and updated all the lighting. And guys, this wasn't just a cosmetic update. It ignited a massive socioeconomic boom that fundamentally transformed the entire avenue's trajectory. The sheer scale of that economic explosion is honestly staggering. Look at this jump in land prices just between 2006 and 2010. In the Taksim Galatasaray neighborhoods, prices surged from 7,500 Turkish lira all the way to 20,000 lira. As the rents rose, all those old manufacturing and storage areas on the upper floors were converted into high-end offices, boutique hotels, and multi-story cultural centers. The pedestrianization quite literally paved the way for unprecedented economic vitality. Researchers who study this boom actually call it the Brownian motion effect, because the economic success didn't just stay isolated on the main avenue, it radiated outward, spreading like wildfire into the surrounding side streets. Cinemas and theaters that had been closed for years suddenly reopened. Book fairs and film festivals returned, sparking a massive wave of independent bookstores, art galleries, and modern cafes. Beyoğlu was completely revived as the premier entertainment and cultural center of Istanbul, drawing a huge influx of young people, artists, and international investors. And that brings us to the endless evening pulse of the avenue today. Under those twinkling nighttime lights, the street transforms into a dazzling cultural scene. You've got passionate street musicians performing for shoulder-to-shoulder crowds, the lively, echoing chatter pouring out of the traditional meyhanes on Nevizade Street, late-night art galleries keeping their doors open, and the incredibly inviting windows of historic chocolateries and pastries. It's like watching a mesmerizing, real-life time-lapse of human connection and urban life. So, taking a final, sweeping look from an elevated view over Taksim Square and the illuminated avenue below, I want to leave you with this thought. Istiklal isn't just a place you visit. It is a living, breathing museum that you actively participate in. From the stunning grandeur of 19th century masonry to the modern hustle of a 3 million person weekend, it is an absolute testament to urban resilience and cultural blending.
So when you eventually walk through these layers of history yourself, what new stories will you add to the unending pulse of Istiklal Caddesi? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.